Welcome
Alrighty.
to Into the Deep, the third. This is the third video in the series where we delve into deep learning, analytics, and now the newest release of the AI box. Our speaker today is Mr. Brian Denmead. He has been with CBC for a little over 16 years, and he is our field applications engineer and master tech guru. Go ahead, Brian.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa. Basically, we're gonna cover basically what is our second generation AI box. Um, we're gonna kind of define it a little bit, go over some in the industry, and cover some of it's new, similar to what our old box presented in terms of an interface and functionality, except that now we've taken it to an. So let's dive in. So just to cover some of the foundations. What is deep learning? How does it affect things? So deep learning is basically AI or artificial intelligence. It can be made up from machine learning. It can be made up from different modules in terms of anything that they may basically consider or encompass as artificial intelligence or AI. The way I break it down basically is machine learning is something where the intelligence is learning on the fly, and it will take time for that learning to mature. Whereas AI or an AI application has already been taught what it needs to know and is now ready to work at its optimal setting in terms of recognizing what it's been designed to. So that's kind of the big difference in the way I look at machine learning versus AI. So, and both have a great impact on the industry. So, where are AI analytics and how are they used? Well, basically, when we say AI analytics, we should say AI and analytics. Reason being is we're still utilizing traditional analytics such as a zone or a line. Somebody enters it, somebody exits it, or crosses it. The AI acts as a filter, if you will. It looks at what created the event, and it confirms whether what created the event is what your interest is. So if you're interested in a person, the AI confirms it is a person as opposed to an animal or a vehicle. AI also has additional functionality such as predictive behavior. It has essentially learned, if it's AI or machine learning, it is in the process of learning to determine that set behavior patterns will likely equate to set actions or reactions from the source of that behavior. So that's another area where AI and machine learning start to distinguish itself from regular analytics. And long and short of it, it allows you to be more proactive than reactive. So what is predictive intelligence? How does that help me? Well, as we just touched upon that, predictive analytics or predictive um, intelligence basically is AI or machine learning that has learned or is in the process of learning that certain behavior is going to lead to certain results. Now, you still have to set it up, but essentially that's what it does. It's basically predicting that, all right, the pattern of behavior that I'm seeing right now is going to lead to this, whatever this might be. It could be that the pattern behavior means that the person is going to walk through the door, to the door. And if you've got a zone there, then basically that zone will alert, and you can use the AI as that filter to say, okay, it's a person who is acting this way, who has now entered this zone and has now tripped my alert. And you notice that there's very specific things that analytic that AI is now looking for to trip that alert. And what that means is reduced false positives on a much greater scale because now it's getting more granular. And that's a very helpful thing to have in the different verticals and different security industries and different areas where security come into play. So physical security absolutely is evolving into more of a reactionary instead of basically more react. It's going past reactionary and more into proactive. The result of being more proactive than reactionary is that you reduce response times for the scenario that it might be in. So whether it's the monitoring agent, it's the officer on patrol or on foot, whether it's a security guard, whether it's an administration supervisor, whoever the person of authority might be, or people in the chain of command, they now are able to reduce that response time thanks to being more proactive than reactive. And that's a major change for the physical security industry. So, how does the AI box, the second generation AI box work? Well, pretty much the same way the first generation does, in the sense that you're bringing in a video feed, and that video feed can come from an analog camera, an IP camera, it can come from a DVR, it can come from a VMS. Essentially, any source device that can output an RTSP video stream can get pulled into the AI box, and then that video stream can be utilized to apply the analytics as well as the AI against or on top of to monitor that feed for changes that would be relevant to one's interest. So again, using the door, somebody approaching the door, there's a zone, there's AI on it. The AI is looking for the person, not the vehicle. So as that person enters the zone, it trips the event, which will then proceed with a response. What are some of the areas where this comes into play? Retail, construction. And construction be anything from roads to buildings, factory floors, factory parking lots, traffic. There's a lot of areas and a lot of verticals where this can come into play. One of the nice things to point out real quick, the second gen AI box has Wiegand, which the first generation box did not. Why is this important? Wiegand is utilized by access control systems. So essentially, you now have a tie-in with the AI box directly into your existing or planned access control system simply by you being able to use the Wiegand to communicate with that system. That's a really nice feature. All right. So some things to know. The technology, if you haven't already uh, kind of determined that from the prior information, is agnostic. It's an easy integration. It's an easy installation. Like we said, we're basically pulling in an RTSP stream from any device. So not model or manufacturer specific. Just give us an RTSP stream and the AI box will do the work. There's also the AI specific handling of alarms. So basically being able to reduce false alarms because the AI acts as that additional filter to determine and confirm that the object that is initiating the event is the object of interest and not one of non-interest. Additional detailed analysis is also brought to the table by AI. Now, in this case, the second gen AI box is introducing pose estimation, which is a fun little skeletal analytic that you'll see overlaid onto people when the analytic is overlaid onto a video, as well as advanced object tracking. And that's not related to the object on the whole as much as it is related to the object and hands or feet, limbs, how they move. So that brings advanced object tracking to another level. All right. So without diving into the technical weeds, let's just kind of get a general idea of how this works. We have a video feed come in through the camera. That video feed is again, we'll use the door with the zone in front of it. And we can have more than one application with the AI box second generation watching the same camera. In the first gen um, box, it was a little bit more, it was more of a 1-to-1 ratio. With the AI box second gen, we have a one application to many channels. So you can apply a one-to-many scenario. Now, an object tracker kicks into place when a person comes onto screen. We're assuming the AI is looking for a person, not a vehicle. As that person goes through, we'll turn around and it'll be determined, is it a person of interest? Is the person behaving in a way that warrants interest? Where apply advanced rule, which is going to be the behavioral side of things. You know, the person is heading to the door, not past the door or away from the door. And then we're going to look at post AI model. Did that object actually cross into, or that person cross into the zone? Yes, that's an alarm. If none of that criteria was met, it's considered a false alarm. It's not going to trip. The scenario is ignored by the AI and thus no false alarms or no false positives. All right, so what's going to come with the standard AI, second gen AI box? Well, you're going to have a standard package of analytics and AI licensing. That's going to allow you to do privacy masking, basic attribute, in term, example being color of clothes, queue management. You're going to get standard heat map, intrusion, loitering, people and or vehicle counting. You can do zone counting. So essentially you set up a zone somewhere and as objects come into the zone, it counts. Virtual fence, stopping detection, which is very similar to loitering, except that the object has basically come to a stop. And anyone who's dealt with the analytics knows that, well, people don't stand still. So loitering is great for people. Stop is great for objects. Stay and go, which is essentially an object entering or exiting a zone or an area. And then occupancy counting, essentially how many objects have gone into a room or into a zone, typically through a single entry or exit point. Now, we do offer a pro package upgrade option. So basically, these are analytics that will be on top of or in addition of the standard analytics. So what can you get with the pro package? And this, again, this is an optional package. It's not one that you have to get, but if any of these analytics do apply to your interest, then it's definitely something to look at. So we bring with the pro package crowd detection, advanced visitor analysis, great for the retail industry, intentional body gaze, which is essentially to try to describe that as easily as possible. When somebody is intent on committing an illegal act, their body posture, their gaze is usually intent on the object of interest. And the AI can determine through the pose estimation what that intentional body gaze is and if it falls into the criteria of interest that can basically trigger an alarm. Foot and hand and foot intrusion. This goes back to what we were talking about with the advanced object detection. Basically, when just the foot or the hand or hands and feet enter a certain zone, it could be indicative of somebody attempting to do something, well, not legal, but of interest. Um, Fallen person detection, animal detection, vehicle type counting. So now we can get into more advanced object and classification by being able to say that the vehicle is either a bus, truck, or a car. Thermal in terms of human detection through thermal camera. Uh, we're going to have drone view. So basically, you'll be able to bring, if your drone technology supports RTSP streaming, you'll be able to bring that into the AI box, second gen, and apply the analytics to that video feed that's coming from the drone. And that's another thing that's pretty exciting. Advanced attributes. So advanced attributes would be things related to time, color, height, speed, stuff of that nature. Fisheye, as well as cargo mode. Now, we also offer add-on licenses. This is different from the Pro package. This is something that as long as you have either the standard package or the Pro package already installed, you can add this to either one of those configurations. So these are additional licenses. What are they? We have LPR for several different regions, advanced heat map, which that could probably be a webinar all on itself. So we'll just leave it at advanced heat map. Helmet not wearing, safety vest not wearing. Essentially, that's PPE or personal protective equipment is what that would fall under. Illegal parking, illegal dumping, violence or aggression, PTZ auto tracking, combined counter. Combined counter basically allows you to take the multiple entrance points to really get that information on what the total combined entrance and or exit from the area is. Human prolonged stay. So kind of like loitering, but specific to people and related to how their body behavior or their behavior in general would relate to that analytic. All right. This is a really, I like this feature with the next generation AI box. This is essentially the standard AI box is an 8-channel box. There's no 4-channel, there's no 16-channel, it's an 8-channel box. But the 8-channel box supports what we call extension mode, or the ability to extend from 8 channels to a 16-channel device. So essentially, since everything's being brought in over the network, you don't have ports on the back of the box. You have virtual channels, if you will, and the default is 8. Well, through the technology, we're able to double those channels to 16. The cost of doing that is the resources that are available do get cut in half, as now you're taking the existing resources and dividing it across 16 channels as opposed to 8. So the resources will be halved as they get divided across the channels. Available licensing. So if you have any of the more advanced or add-on channels, so like pro licensing and add-on licensing, a lot of that functionality will no longer be available simply for the fact that the available resources cannot support those licensing applications when in 16 channel mode. So, rule of thumb, like anything, design with intent, ask questions if you're using the box, work with support to make sure that a 16 channel usage will work for the requirements that you have and with the licensing that you have an intention to use. All right, so what does the AI box kind of look like? So the interface looks very much like the original AI box. It's basically been streamlined. It's a little bit more advanced, or it's evolved more over what it was, so it's easier to navigate. The setup is still very reminiscent of the original one, but again, that's also streamlined. So in the original AI box, you had a one-to-one analytic ratio. In the new AI box, you're able to do a one-to-many. And if I pause this video for a second, let me see if I have okay, here we go. So what we can see here is we can see the 8 channels and we can see which channels are in use. And this is with the one analytic. Now, basically with the second gen, I can have channels 1 through 8 or any channels in between that are now have this analytic associated with them. So one time or one to many. With the original AI box, you would have had multiple entries of intrusion, but only one channel per each one of those entries. So basically, you had a much more, shall we say, power hungry uh, architecture in the first gen compared to the second gen. The second gen is a much more efficient design in technology and in code. So we'll just kind of pull this back along here, and you can see our action types. These are different things that can be applied as the response to the event that the analytic trips. We have tie-in with a couple of different VMSs as well as our own Quattro VMS. In fact, I think our Quattro VMS has a really nice um, inter, integration with the AI box where we can get the metadata from the AI box into Quattro with the video streams, which is a really nice addition. Let's go ahead to go to our next slide. So what is it that what's kind of the takeaway for the second gen AI box? It has highly accurate object tracking technology. So basically improvements over prior technology. Just again, AI has been advanced, the architecture has been advanced. We have high performance pose estimation technology, which was not part of the first gen, but is part of the second gen. And that pose technology with the AI combined provides some pretty interesting analytic opportunities. We have a continued reduction of false alarms, and because of the multifaceted functionality of, again, just using uh, pose estimation and AI, when used together, can provide a multi-level analysis of the scene and again help reduce false alarms while improving the accuracy of the alarms of interest. So how does this kind of look in play? So we have a video here. We've got people walking around. We've got the AI clearly determining who these people are. We've got somebody dropping an object off. And if you give it a moment, that AI is going to turn around and it's going to clearly label, give that a moment. There it is, abandoned. And we can see abandoned is not being overlaid, or it's not being, you can clearly see it and you can clearly see the people. And then this, of course, can then turn around and triple your alarms and responses and go from there. Okay, so I mentioned about the pose estimation with the AI overlay. So this is a visualization of what that would kind of look like. So we can see the skeletal analytic that's overlaid on the person's body. and then we see the bounding box around it, and then we see a confidence level. So the AI is confident that this is a person, but because it's the AI utilized in conjunction, you're able to do behavioral analytics. You're able to the accuracy of, you know what, that is a person. You're able to do things like, okay, that's a foot or that's a hand that's entering the zone, and really gives you much more advanced functionality because of that. It's also a really cool animation analytic to play with. Here's a really great example where we can see the pose estimation in play, and we can see even though a person's arm is blocked visually from the body, the pose estimation still follows that arm very, very accurately. You can see when somebody comes in and they're posing a threat, the AI with the posture, the body mechanics, the body language is able to interpret, you know what, we have a threat detection going on. Now we can turn around and we can trip our alarms and notify people. So, and as you can see, it's a very, very fast. It's not something that's going to have a delay on it at all. And again, that feeds back to reducing the response times. So, one of the really nice things about the second gen AI box is we've kind of created templates in terms of how analytics can be grouped. And again, it's a guideline. You don't have to follow it. You can design it however you want, but it's kind of a general guideline for easy installation to give a general idea on things. So in this case, we've taken 4 of the analytics, and when grouped together, they produce a security management vertical. We've taken 5 of the analytics here. We've created legal parking, intrusion, virtual fence, LPR loitering, and this again can lead to another vertical of coverage. We've got for, in this case, occupancy counting, threat detection, as well as queue management. And this is a great template for the retail environment. A lot of this is, it's kind of a combination of business analytics or retail analytics along with the security side of things. And again, you're not tied into this. This is just a representation of way of a template that helps kind of streamline the process when you're trying to figure out what's the easiest thing to get up and running and get moving as you get familiar with the technology. So another part for the retail side, people counting, crowd detection, intrusion detection, loitering, construction management, so suspicious behavior, PPE, which would be the helmet and safety vest, crowd detection, fallen person, loitering person, intrusion detection, illegal dumping. If you got a construction site, and I'm sure anyone who's dealt with the challenges or the logistics of a construction site has come across where people have decided to say, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to dump my stuff there. And illegal dumping helps you deter and determine if that's being done. Okay, so that's it for the general Q&A. Not general Q&A, for the um, presentation. Let's see what kind of questions we have. Now's a great time to dig in, and if you've got any questions on the AI box, intents, purposes, technical, let's have at it.
Yeah, anyone who has a question, you can put it in the chat box, which is to your lower right-hand corner.
Okay, great question. Is the box NDAA compliant? Yes. And let's see, how is this generation of the AI box different from the older one? Another great question. So, as we already mentioned, the analytics architecture works differently. Instead of a one-to-one, it's a one-to-many. So that helps streamline and allows more performance to be brought out of the box. In a general comparison, you could say that the second gen AI box has twice the well, 6 times the performance functionality, twice the resource availability in it. So it's capable of doing much more advanced analytics and provide more configuration options to meet more installation requirements. Also, from the interface perspective, I didn't. The interface, like I said, it's more streamlined, so it takes less time to set things up, and that's another area where it helps streamline and get you up and running as quickly as possible. All right, what other questions might we have? Okay, just to reiterate, it is an 8-channel box, but it does have the ability to extend to 16. So if you have standard needs such as loitering, so you can take loitering and you can go from an 8-channel of loitering to 16 channels of loitering as you need. Here's one, cybersecurity features. Yes, the box does support encryption. It does support the HTTPS. It supports the RTSP in and out encryption. We also have IP filtering so that you can lock down the communications with the box. It's only going to come from predetermined IP addresses, which help make it more difficult. You do have complex password creation, so you will have to utilize more than just a simple 1 2 3 4 for your password when you set the box up. And it will ask for that password to be created at time of first installation. So bear one thing in mind when you create that password. Make sure you either utilizing the practice of an installation password, which is something you use all the time from the installation level, and then that gets replaced by the admin password once things are deployed and ready to go into live deployment. Um, does this version support MTLS? Good question. That's one I'll have to get back to. I don't know if it supports the MTLS. I know it supports TLS, but I'd have to check on that one. Can all this data be backed up to a server? The box supports it in a couple of different ways. So the box itself allows you to, once configured, to be able to export that configuration, and you can save that configuration for multi-rollout deployments where you're going to have multiple boxes, but they all need the same type of configuration. In terms of tie-ins, the box does have an API that uses RESTful API, so it can be tied into an external database through the API. Let's see, what other questions might we have? Can you get mobile notifications when an event occurs? Actually, you can do that a couple of different ways. One, again, as we mentioned, there is the API tie-in. So if you're somebody who uses Telegram, for argument's sake, which utilizes an open source API, you can utilize that as a way for the box to communicate with Telegram. If you're using a box with a VMS, or if you're using a box with a recorder, then usually there's a mobile application related with that VMS and or that DVR or embedded NVR. Let's see. How about integrations with other VMSs? Right now, the AI box has integration with our GAN's Cortral VMS, the NX VMS, and I believe it was either Genetech or Milestone. I'd have to go back in and double check. And actually, give me a second if I'm on the right network. Okay, I can actually go in as long as time allows, and I can tell you exactly which it has integration with on a VMS question. So, action list. We have Milestone, Quartro, Annex. We also have integration with SureView. And since basically we utilize plugins, basically if you've got a VMS that we don't have direct integration with or can't offer integration through the API functionality, then we can always work with you to develop the plugin that would allow communications with that VMS. All right.
We also
What's
had another question. What's inside of this box? Jetson?
that's probably referring to the hardware. So it utilizes the text instrument chipset. I couldn't tell you if that's a Jetson. It's an embedded unit. It's something that we manufacture and put inside a housing. So I couldn't tell you if it's a Jetson platform or what have you. Other than it's our system with the TI chipset. It's one of the reasons why it's an NDAA compliant box. Okay, just a quick, so the MTLS, so HTTPS, HTML is supported. We're gonna have to get back on the MTLS. It's 11:30. Lisa, just correct me. Were we scheduled for 30 minutes or longer?
I mean, technically we have an hour, but it's really up to you.
All right. Let me just take a quick peek at the box and see. And we have email functionality. Do we have the MTLS option showing up in here? No. Let's go back to the network side of things. I'm just trying to see if the box has the option of selecting the MTLS or not, or if it's just one of those protocols that are supported in the background. Yeah, I don't see it immediately available in terms of something that is something that you could select. So we'll have to just follow back up and let everyone know if the MTLS is supported or not.
Vladimir had another question for you, Brian.
Okay. Are all analytics already on board on box or should be somehow downloaded? So the standard package is already included with the box. So when you get the box, it'll have the standard analytics installed. If you want to have the pro package, then that is something that would have to be added. And that's just a license that gets either added at that we put the box together on our end, or if you have an existing box and upgrade it to the pro package, it's just going to be a license that you add to the unit. And the same goes with the add-on licenses. They can either be added at time of purchase or added at a later date. It's just a file that you upload into the box. Let me see what we got here. I see another question. Understand the way to back up data on a server. So the question is one of those questions where it's kind of, you can't really give a straight answer unless you're really referring to a specific configuration. The AI box itself, if you configure the box, that configuration is exportable from the AI box. So basically, think of it as a configuration database. If you're referring to a server, and a server basically would be running a VMS, well, your VMS configuration up in whatever function that VMS supports. The analytics itself, the video of the unit is bringing in cameras that you theoretically have going to a recording medium, whether that recording medium is an NVR, DVR, or VMS. So if we're talking about a VMS integration, then in the case of Quartro, we include the metadata in that video stream that you could bring back to the VMS from the box. So let me try answering it another way. The intention of the box, and this is not a closed intention, this is just a general intention, is you bring in a substream video, analytics are applied to it, and the analytics allow you to determine that something is happening based off of the analytics and the AI that is filtering it. So you have an existing system which the cameras themselves don't have analytics, they don't. You have a DVR, embedded NVR, you have a VMS that doesn't have analytics. This box allows you to retrofit those systems and bring analytics to the table or make analytics part of the existing solution. It's also a great fit for a new install where potentially the analytics package that would go with that VMS may cost more than the AI box itself. And the AI box may actually present more advanced analytics than what might be obtainable for that VMS, just to give a couple of scenarios. So you have the AI box, an analytic event is tripped, and then that information is either sent by email through an AI, I'm sorry, an IO, a relay, or it's sent through the VMS plugin. And then that information gets saved on your, if it's going into a VMS, your VMS is going to record all that information. So I might need to have, I'm hoping that that answered the question better. If not, by all means, email me kind of the scenario that you're referencing when talking about a database backup, and we could try to get a little bit more detail into that. Let's see. Does the unit store events or video? No, the unit doesn't store the event or the video. Well, I shouldn't say that. There is a log file to let you know when events and stuff of that nature have happened, but it doesn't store the video. It doesn't store a snapshot. That usually is in relation to the recording medium. So this is not something that's going to replace your existing recorder. Well, again, whether that's an NVR, DVR, or a VMS platform. This is something that brings an analytics engine to the solution where you may not have had an analytics engine prior. And then it ties all that logic, all that notification functionality into that as that companion analytics engine. Um, we got a couple of minutes. Let me share, because I have the AI box up on my screen right now. So just to kind of give you that preview, if you will. So here's the AI box. And I'm not going to dig deep. I'm just going to click through some windows so you can see we've added cameras. We can tie in our AI applications. We have an option to fine tune things. So you can, again, there's multiple ways to reduce false alarms with this device. You have a display options, network side of things. As mentioned, we have an IP filter. So now you can basically say, all right, these addresses are good and these addresses we ignore. Service ports are programmable, HTTPS, RTSP, Viv, system information. I'm going to go to system management, and this is what I was referring to. Once this box is configured, you can come over here to the system DB, and then you can export that information, and then you can import it into another box, or should something, maybe while this box, the original box was reconfigured for some reason, but you wanted to restore a prior configuration, you can then import it back into this box. Certificate updates for OpenSSL. In terms of security, like we mentioned, enhanced password, auto log out, log functionality, so you can get a general idea of what's been going on. We got a system log itself. So here we can see what I've been doing on the box. And this information is exportable. We talked about the API. So utilizing the API, you can get extended or expanded integration or handshaking with stuff. We talked about the license management. So here's a bunch of the licensing. And you're just going to use the license management to bring in or import new license if you're going to add to it. And then for the AI-based applications, they're all basically right here. And you can get to them either by going here to get to them or by going through the video input after you've added them. And then system event options, such as the IOs, the relays, alarm in. You've got virtual alarms. You can arm and disarm the unit through schedule or through interactions. So it's, and as you can see, it's information readily there, low intuitive learning curve on this, which makes it really great for fast installations and deployments. And then you can always turn around because it's one of those things that as you get more familiar with it, you can have it do more and more complex things by starting to layer stuff. So, all right, so that's the AI box. I'll stop sharing that just so we can see if there's any other questions on anything. Um, so that Yeah, we're not going to dive deep into anything, but if there's any more questions on things, otherwise we'll start closing down. And you can always email, and we can always follow up on any more questions and or